Welcome to the club. We're talking with Scott and Dee from Right Hook Digital, the Facebook marketing agency, about how to back yourself. They're talking about business and marketing and ultimately how to get to the truth of marketing. Check it out. We're here with Dee and Scott, the co-founders of Right Hook Digital. Guys, welcome to the Disruptors Club, Scott.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good
Welcome.
to be here.
Just a bit of background. Dee and Scott, obviously founders of Right Hook. You guys have an incredible presentation talking about how to hack and build an agency. A bit of background, Dee is the head of growth at Right Hook and formerly the founder and CEO of Video D Media. Very cool. And also, fun fact, Dee hates it when there is limited seating in airports.
I actually remember what the thing is now. Whoever's doing the research, that's a good one.
Scott, previously the owner of Epoch Collective, which is a startup e-commerce beach accessory label. You guys being co-founders, which is incredible. Tell us, in your view, maybe starting with you, Scott, what makes a great digital marketer?
We had this discussion with another friend of ours just before, and he brought up a really good point. Adaptability. I think it's a market and an industry that changes monthly. So being able to adapt to any changes, especially we deal a lot with Facebook, month to month, it's a completely different platform. So I think that's probably the primary thing. And secondary to that, just always having a testing mindset. Because you never know what's going to work. Jared spoke a little bit earlier about it inside. Just no one's opinion is worth anything. Like we can sit there and guess as much as we like, but until we actually test something and validate it, I think you just have to be testing all the time.
Dee, what about yourself? What do you look for in digital marketers?
I think to add into that, it's the element of the thing about digital marketers that I notice a lot, regardless of whether they come from the affiliate world or from the branding world, as long as they're digital, for some reason they lose sight of the fact that there are people on the other side. Mm-hmm. So they see numbers and stats. What's the conversion rate? What's the click-through rate? And they're looking at like ratios and percentages instead of going, wait, these are actual people. I get to feel that a lot because when we're running our agency, those numbers backed out into people on the phone with me having their concerns. So I get to hear that, right? Which then speaks to marketer's empathy, which is great copy, which is on point creative. Once you know what they are fearful of or they want to gain, all of a sudden everything backs out and you start seeing the positives and the numbers start to rise, but it's because there are people behind those numbers. That's what I look out for sure.
Brilliant. In terms of channels, you guys focus a lot on Facebook. Tell us about, each of you, Scott, maybe starting, what's your sort of hack? What's your sort of, place that you're like, you crush when it comes to Facebook advertising?
I mean, we are specific with e-commerce. So I don't think we've got a hack. We've just got a really good process as to how we operate. We've got a really good framework. Our team's built around running e-commerce brands and building e-commerce brands. For the most part, our funnel structure is fairly similar. So I guess that's a piece of IP that we've got really dialed in and how that runs. The biggest variable there is just what our top of funnel awareness strategy is. That's where the biggest change is, depending on the brand, the buying cycle, whether it's a new existing brand.
So a rigorous process.
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah. Very process driven.
I'd say that funnily enough, when we speak about that to other people that run traffic, it turns out to be the hack. They're like, what? Especially if they see our persona or they see our process, they're like, holy crap, guys, that's what you guys put everyone through? It's like, yeah, well, it keeps everyone in line and they know what the process is, which especially as an agency, as a client, you kind of want to know that the person working on your account has a process. Right, you kind of want to know that, which is the same reason, I guess, why pilots, as needless as it is, kind of tells you we're going to go to 40,000 feet. This turn left here, go over the sea there. It's like, yeah, sweet, I'm in the air, but somehow it instills a certain confidence in that. I think that's the hack because it helps manage expectations from nervous clients, which inevitably you will be as working with an agency that you might not have never worked with before.
Now, I like to talk a bit about superpowers. And I know starting an agency, even from my experience, you need an angle, you need to sort of, you combine together, almost like sometimes you do super moves when you combine two superpowers together as well. But tell us, there's a great one, I remember those. Tell us, Dee, what's your superpower?
I think for me, it's definitely deep empathy in a very I can break someone down in 5 minutes. I meet you, I can kind of tell from a modality standpoint. You, before I had read NLP, I was already applying NLP, just not knowing that I was doing it. And that comes with the upbringing of growing up with whiteys in an Asian country, but being able to see how the juxtaposition of Westerners speaking their opinion, Asian people not saying anything about how they feel, and going, this is lunacy on both sides. I'm going to see if I can parlay that. So now I meet people and I go, okay, I can kind of tell who you are, what you need from me, what you need me to be. And that's powerful, I think, in its own way, because from a negotiation standpoint, it's awesome. But from a marketing standpoint, it's also really good because I get into the mind of whoever I need to get into, which is kind of dope.
Awesome. Scott, yourself, superpower? And then I'm going to ask what's the combined one, but anyway.
I'd say resourcefulness in just, if we have a problem or we need to figure something out, then I love diving in and finding the answers. And that's what, it's something that we really look for in our team members or anyone that we're bringing in, that they've got the capacity to go and find answers for themselves, find solutions. I think for us, driving the business, I think Dee's obviously got this superpower as well, but I think that's a really critical thing. Apart from that, I think just being a really good generalist. Not being too niche down in a specific area. I think we've both got, and myself especially, just a really good broad understanding of every area of digital marketing. I'm probably really strong with Facebook advertising and e-commerce, but just having a really good understanding, I think it just puts you in good stead across the board. That's
awesome. And then when you combine together, what's like that moment that you guys experience where you have that teamwork and you're like, wow, that was incredible. How would you describe that?
That is such a je ne sais quoi. It's funny. We met online. No work together on something, whatever. Literally met online, met up for Korean fried chicken on the Gold Coast, and then started taking on clients before incorporating. And I think that's when we both realized that it's the spaces between, right? When you have co-founders, and if both of them have completely overlapping skills, you get conflict because there's no clear delineation of roles or complementary skill sets. Whereas I think what we found quite quickly was I guess to play into the right hook analogy, that 1-2 punch was really, really there without pre-planning it or being hyper intentional about it, where I would suggest something and for some reason, I don't know if it's a stars thing, but Scott would be like, yeah, just thinking about that on Saturday. So it aligns really nicely in that way. So I think the values are aligned, right? Which then means that once the values are aligned, everything moves in the right direction, even if it's discourse. So even if it's don't agree, people are like, why not? And that's healthy versus don't agree and then just arcing up and going like, why don't you agree? You're making life difficult for me. I think the superpower is understanding that it's for the team, not for the self, which is that can then just spread to the rest of the team.
So dropping the ego, looking at the
door,
bigger picture.
totally. Or actually, I think almost the absence of it. You talk to, it's, I don't know, you see me on stage, there almost is a very little care about how people perceive me because this is what you get. So the team gets that too. The team also gets when there's a mistake that happens, they hear it first from us instead of, it being leadership has to deal with it first. You guys get the watered down version. It's like, no, this is how we messed up. This is how we're going to deal with it. This is how we want it to be better next time. I think that really then bleeds to the rest of the team very, very nicely.
Yeah, there's a really healthy relationship in challenging ideas as well. But I think the big thing combined, ridiculously aggressive mindsets. So combined with the two of us, as Dee said, from a foundational standpoint, work ethic, really strong growth mindset. We joke about it now, and that we sat down when you do a vision for your company at the start, we're a couple of months in, the business isn't mature enough to really have a vision at that stage, or we didn't find it did. What was our goal? We just wrote $100 million on a piece of paper. We look back at that now as okay, we've added to it and there's a bit more context and, the company's got a personality and a culture and we've incorporated that into what our goals are now, but it was just always a ridiculously big goal. Cool, we're both on the same page and that sort of drives everything else.
If you were to go back, say 5 years now, and give yourself a secret or whisper something to yourself 5 years ago, what would be that digital marketing thing? What would be that thing you were or if it's growth or, with your business, what would you tell yourself? Dee, do you want to start?
Go too far qualitative and you lose. go too for quantitative and you lose. You really need to kind of straddle both of them. And on like, left brain, right brain, you kind of need to be ambidextrous as a digital marketer, especially in social or especially in like Finder, for example. There's a jingle in there. Some people would laugh at the fact that you're using like, oh, it's such a cheap tactic, a jingle. But if it works, forget what you think. Your opinion does not matter. It works on the qualitative side, and it backs out on the quantitative side, I'm sure, in some way, shape, or form. So I think that becomes really important in a world where performance marketing becomes so DR, too DR sometimes. The analogy that I was using just before in the chat was, when people get too DR, it's almost like saying, like you give it to a super efficiency Japanese like Toyota type company.
Yeah.
Who scores the most basket in a basketball game? Kobe Bryant. Great. Fire every other player. Only Kobe Bryant versus the other team. The lot all of a sudden doesn't back out if you use that analogy.
Yes.
So I think if you go qual and you go quant, you put that together, you understand that the branding passes the ball over to DR. DR shoots the basket, makes the score. The team net wins. I think if I could go back 5 years, that would be the case for sure, as opposed to looking at it in siloed disciplines. Like, I need a CRO course. I need a Facebook ads course. I need an analytics course. It's more, once you understand each silo, when you do this is when you start to get good, and it starts to hum. Otherwise, they're just like disciplines that don't talk to each other.
Yes. That's great. Scott,
For me-
what would you whisper? What would you tell yourself? There was that moment, you walked in your own bedroom, you're like, who are you?
So 5 years ago, I was still an employee, so mine would be take more risks. Go back and just, if you've got that entrepreneurial drive, just take risks. Because if you fail, like, I think once you get to where we are now, you understand how little, in the big picture, losing 5 or 10 or 20K really is. But if you don't take that risk, you're never going to get up here. So for me, it would be just, if you've got that digital marketing skill and you've got that talent, utilize it in building your own product, your own brand, as opposed to doing it for someone else.
Awesome. Yeah, I guess that's that. Back yourself.
Yeah, definitely, 100%, always.
So, I guess if you were going to share one final sort of, insight, I guess to help these guys in the club grow, what would that be? Maybe Scott, if you want to.
I probably just covered it with the last question. I think you just got to back yourself. If you want to grow, and actually talking about one of our employees of the last couple of days, she came to us, not to throw Beck's name out there, but
you did.
Yeah, I did. She has she's feeling uncomfortable because she's growing. And whenever, if you're feeling comfortable, you're not growing. So put yourself in situations where you're feeling uncomfortable, you're pushing your comfort zone. That means you're stretching yourself. That's the only way you can grow. So I think just making sure that you're always pushing yourself into something that you haven't done before, or learning
Celebration
something.
of discomfort.
Beautiful. Summed up well.
Do you like yourself?
I'd say, especially for people in the club, go past the theory, go past the headlines. For us, it's very easy to get pulled into Gary Vee said this last week. Grant Cardone said this last week. Some guru, insert guru's name here, said this last week, or Adweek said this last week. So it must be true. Well, put some dollars behind it, taste it for yourself. You'll know whether it's true for you, which is, I think, the biggest thing that happens whenever we speak with certain clientele. They'll be like, oh, my consultant or my agency told me this. I'm like, have they tested it? Ask them. If they have, then great, it's data. If they haven't, then that's a blog post that they're just regurgitating to you. It's a very different sensation.
Yes.
Right? So taste it for yourself. As humans, I tell the team all the time, seeing is believing, touching is confirming. So don't just see it, touch it, feel it. Let it mess up, fail from it, and then you can confirm that it actually exists and it's actually real.
Awesome stuff, guys. Thanks so much for sharing, guys. And you can follow these guys and join if you want to get some more e-commerce Facebook marketing. They have a Facebook group called E-commerce Heavyweights. Check it out. Join up if you're keen on that. Get into it. These guys are the best in town. Thanks so much, Dee and Scott, for joining us in the club.
Appreciate you, man.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thank you.